It's called a fish.
Just a little, whoop, that sheet is right in behind you there.
All right, Lake Huron Fishing Club is a local organization. It's based in Kincardine, Port Elgin, Southampton area. We were formed in 1983 by a group of dedicated and concerned fishermen and conservationists. We're all very interested in the sport of fishing and the state of the fisheries of southwestern Ontario, and we banded together and formed a club to try to promote those issues.
I'm trying to get my wife to say that.
We have currently about 400 members, and they're scattered throughout the area and even outside of the area. We have members down in London and Kitchener and Guelph area. But we are all volunteers. Nobody gets paid for anything. We do an awful lot of fishery-related work in our hatcheries and stream work and school projects and whatnot. We do a lot of lobbying and consultations with governments and other organizations, and as he said, nobody gets paid for anything. It's all volunteers, all volunteer work.
I see.
Lake Huron Fishing Club, our mission statement, you'll find it on our webpage, is ensuring future generations have quality fishing opportunities. So that means ensuring that our children and our grandchildren will have the opportunity to pursue and catch via legal sport, that the sport is going to continue, sport of fishing, that they'll be able to go out there, catch quality fish, good size, good health fish, that there'll be lots of fish there for them, that they'll be able to enjoy the sport just like we did when we grew up. That's our mission statement. So to accomplish that, so that our kids are able to do that, we've got to ensure that there's lots of fish out in the water, local waters, that we have access to get to those fish, that there's public areas that people can get out to access the waters to get the fish. We have to ensure that the fish are healthy, so that the water is clean, that the toxins are low enough, that the fish are of good enough quality to eat, that the fish are a big enough size and large enough numbers that our kids can catch them and enjoy them. We want the kids, we want the future generations to be able to enjoy the sport as much as we enjoyed it growing up.
Well, look at them all swimming away, eh? Boy, they're pretty fast, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
They go, where am I? Where's my mommy? Wow. Definitely healthy.
In order to ensure that there's enough fish out there, as I said before, we're all volunteers, we're fishermen. We figure if we take fish out of the lake, we got to do something to put fish back into the lake. So we run 2 fish hatcheries. We have the fish hatchery in Kincardine. We raise brown trout and rainbow trout and put them into local waters. In Port Elgin, we have a hatchery that we raise Chinook salmon, and we put Chinook salmon into the lake. We've been raising fish since 1985. We put currently we put about 110,000 Chinook salmon into the lake every year. We put 60,000 rainbow trout, and we put 60,000 brown trout into the lake. We're involved with stream enhancement. We've done miles and miles of cattle fencing to keep cattle out of local streams and rivers. We do tree planting. We've planted hundreds of thousands of trees in the local area to shade and provide buffer areas along our local streams. We've built 2 fish cleaning stations. We have a fish cleaning station in Kincardine that Lake Huron Fishing Club built. We turned it over to the town of Kincardine. We turned another fish cleaning station that we built over to the town of Port Elgin for local fishermen to clean their catches. We operate a boat launch up at Bay Adore, just north of the nuclear power plant. We keep that open. We have a dusk to dawn light there for fishermen's safety so that they can go out and come back at night. We maintain that boat launch. We have a school hatchery program. This year we have 10 schools that we have little mini hatcheries in. We've stocked each of those mini hatcheries with 100 Chinook salmon eggs. The kids, the children, they look after these eggs, they monitor them, see them hatch, and then they feed the small fish until April or May, and then they release these fish out into the water. Local waters. This gives them a sense of ownership and a skin in the game of the local fisheries here. So it's a very exciting program. They really enjoy it. We do a lot of consultation with the government, the Ministry of Natural Resources. We are basically the voice of fishermen in southwestern Ontario. So when the Ministry of Natural Resources or other government agencies want the input of local fishermen, they come to us and we try to represent the fishermen with those agencies. Same thing with local municipalities and towns. We represent the fishermen in their areas and we promote fishing in the local communities. There's lots of other things that we're involved with, little projects that come up, some longer than others, but I think we do a good job of representing the fishermen of this area. So.
Okay, I'm Richard Elliott. You guys obviously have started your program here, and the programs actually came from the Lake Huron Fishing Club. They have 2 hatcheries. There's one in Kincardine that has rainbow trout and brown trout, and we collect about 100,000 eggs for each one of them. The brown trout eggs come about January, and the rainbow trout eggs come in April. We keep both of them for a year, and then they get stocked. The brown trout gets stocked in the Lake Huron shoreline from Point Clark up to Pike Bay, and the rainbow trout all get stocked likely within about 10 or 15 kilometers of Walkerton in the Saugeen River. And then the salmon, which you guys are having in here, Chinook salmon, we take about 100,000 eggs there too. The way the program started is I went to a club meeting 2 years ago, and they were looking at a way to get youth and adults involved in the Lake Huron Fishing Club so they could grow and do something with youth. I wasn't a member, and I come up with this idea, and they hadn't done it in 15 years, and they decided to try it with a school or two. So 2 years ago we had one school, and it was in Teeswater. Last year we had 3, 2 in Teeswater and 1 in Walkerton, and this year we have 10. I applied for a grant with Libro Financial Group for a community builders grant, and they gave us $6,000. So we've expanded to 10 schools, and now you guys are part of it. So you're going to take care of these. You've already seen the egg stage. They've all hatched. You've had huge success. There was only a few of them. Do you guys know how many of them that died?
0.
0. Well, you're the best. Every other school had 1 to 5, and 2 schools, well, 1 school was a total wipeout. They all died. And the one in Walkerton that we had, there was 8 or 10 of them lived. All the rest of them died. And then the Sacred Heart School in Teeswater had, I took 36 on one day. And the reason it died, I know for sure, the egg, you know how your egg tray was in here with the water going in? Yeah. It got moved, and it was away from it. So the water wasn't going in the tray, so the eggs didn't have enough oxygen to survive. So when I realized this, it was a couple days because it was early in the week and it went over the weekend. I put it back under, and about 2 days later, they all started turning up white. Now, the ones that were left hatched, but I wonder if we're going to have a problem with them. I think they had oxygen depletion, and we may end up losing them. So I restocked them yesterday, and I restocked the one in Walkerton. The Kincardine and Walkerton one, I believe, the egg trays we made were made, 2 of them were made last minute, and I think the silicone wasn't cured. So it got in the water and killed them ones. So you guys are like really good if you had none of them die at all. They're at the Elgin stage now, and once the orange sac comes off the bottom, they absorb that and develop their intestines. You'll go into the feeding stage. And at that time, right now, most of them are on the bottom. You do see the odd one going up to the top and racing across or whatever. Most of them will just go across the bottom. And once they get to the swim up stage and the orange is gone, that's when we'll start feeding them. And we'll bring the feed in for you. You'll get a little salt or a pepper shaker or a spice shaker to hand feed them, but we'll also have an automatic feeder so that you guys can, they can be fed at night and on the weekends. As well, you know, when we first set it up, the temperature was 45 degrees Fahrenheit. And that was because the water in our hatchery was 45 degrees Fahrenheit. And you guys have it up to, I believe, 50. Yeah, it's 50 Fahrenheit now. And it'll stay there until the yolk's been absorbed. And at that time, we'll take it up to about 56 or 57. And that will help these fish grow likely half again as big as the ones in our hatchery, because it's going to be 10 or 12 degrees warmer. And it's like anything else. The more heat you get, the more food you get, or corn or anything like that, they absorb nutrients. The more heat they get, the more it grows. Be the same thing here. The warmer you need, the more they absorb that yolk, the more they'll be able to leave the bottom.
I'm happy because we get to watch all the salmon grow up until we get to release them.
Does it help understand maybe at home you're not going to leave the tap on as much, or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. And maybe, if your dad goes, well, I'm just going to put this oil down the drain. Probably stop him from doing that, eh?
Yeah.
Right on.
The more they absorb that yolk, the more they'll be able to leave the bottom.
Hey, what does it mean for you, Austin, to have the hatchery? Or?
Well, I feel it's a great opportunity for me to get to know a kind of fish, because I've never went fishing before, and I feel it's a good chance for me to take responsibility, because I actually have 2 jobs that involve the fish. Job number 1, I'm the temperature checker. I gotta make sure the temperature on the cooler machine lines up with the thermometer in the tank. And the second job, I forget what it is. I'll check with my teacher later. But I remember I don't have to do it until it's time to start feeding.
Right. So that's pretty important, because as we heard from Richard, the fish have to be at a certain temperature.
Yeah.
Right. Good.
I think it's pretty cool because the fish will grow to be huge, 3 feet long, some of them. But I like that they're started off at just really little and then they grow up to be huge monsters.
Right. Cool. And you're looking forward to releasing them?
Yeah, and maybe catching them someday.
I think it's cool because I want to be a vet when I grow up, and it'll be like having like little baby animals and stuff.
Great.
The more they absorb that yolk, the more they'll be able to leave the bottom.
I think it's pretty cool. Like, I didn't really know anything about salmon, and I had to like write a blog about them. So I've been learning more about them, and I've been writing that in my blog.
Great, and that's the blog that Richard helps you with then, right? Great. Are you having a lot of fun doing that?
Yeah.
Good.
The more they absorb that yolk, the more they'll be able to leave the bottom.
Some of them have pretty cool behavior, and a few of us named, I think, 3 of them.
How do you know which 3 are the ones that you named?
We named one Dum Dum because he keeps on hitting his head up against the wall. We named one Chuck, and he'll go right up to the top, and he'll always come back down really slow.
Great.
And we named another one. What did we name the other one, Mara? One of the other kids in our class named one, I think, Carl off of The Walking Dead.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it's pretty cool.
Cool. Yeah, I do like early dining.
One of the jobs that's very important for the students to take care of is we have a chiller that's an automatic chiller on the bottom here, and it's set at 45 degrees Fahrenheit when we bring the eggs here, and now that they've hatched they have it up to 50, and as they start to feed them that will actually go up to 56 or 57, so you can set the set point and it stays there. And the way it works is there's a white tube on this side with holes in it, and there's a pump that actually takes the water from that white tube, takes it down through the chiller, and it comes over, when it comes back out, and it comes through this white pipe and gets put back into the aquarium. So there's a continuous flow of water going around to keep the water at whatever temperature we want. And then as well as the intake, there's an air bubbler on here, and that's just putting oxygen in the water just to make sure that there's lots of oxygen in there for the number of fish that are in there. And then we have the filter that is actually cleaning, and at the bottom there's a intake, and it just takes it through with the 3 different ingredients that are in there to filter it out, and it just keeps on flowing. It actually puts oxygen in the water as it flows in, and just another way to recirculate the water, keep everything kind of fresh. We do have a thermometer in here, and as they were saying, they do kind of check the automatic one with the manual one just to make sure that they're close, so that we know that the temperature is actually right. If the temperature gets up too high, then we have a problem with the fish actually not surviving. So it's very important to do that. And then as they use up the egg, the yolk on the fish, they absorb that, they develop their intestines, and then from then on they'll actually start feeding them. There'll be an automatic feeder on the side that'll be put here for evening and morning feedings for the fish, and then the students will actually hand feed them out of a shaker when they're here through the day, likely once an hour or so, just to keep food in there fairly often. They seem to survive better if you can feed them multiple times a day. And at the same time, they would have to use a siphon hose that we'll supply and suck a volume of water out of there to suck up the fish waste or the extra food off the bottom, and then replenish that with good non-chlorinated water. So they'll either have pails of water sitting out for a few days for the chlorine to leave it, or they'll bring it in from a well, which some of them do, and then use water that never had chlorine in it in the first place. And then come the end of April or the 1st of May, we will actually take the school and the smolts up to Southampton and stock them, and at that time the students will actually go to our Port Elgin the Lake Huron Fishing Club salmon hatchery, and they'll get a tour of it, and there should be 50 to 70,000 in there, about the same size. They might be smaller, that they can actually tour. And then there's a pond back in behind it, the Port Elgin Community Pond, that we have some browns and rainbows in it that the students can take a look at, and some of them, if we can make arrangements, they'll actually be able to go and fish at the pond for an hour or so and then head back.
Come on out here and we'll take a tour of their trout hatchery. So you'll see the sign if you've been fishing or handling fish outside of the hatchery here in the last 24 hours. We'll want you to disinfect your hands and feet. But assuming that we haven't, all we have to do is just step on and off these pads. That kills the germs on the bottom of your feet and keeps us from tracking diseases into our hatchery. Now you'll see over here on the side, we've got some electronics. Here we have an alarm system that will alert hatchery employees if there's a problem down at the hatchery, power supply or water problem. And we have controls, electronic controls for all of our feeder circuits here. So this is just apologize for the mess here. We've been releasing fish here for the last couple of days, so things are a little untidy right at the moment. This is just a general work area, but we get a lot of school tours here, a lot of visitors, and we have some samples here of invasive species out in Lake Huron that we take the opportunity to talk about. Zebra mussels, lampreys, gobies, alewives, spiny water flea over here. So invasive species have had a huge effect on Lake Huron, and this is just an opportunity to do a little bit of education to the people on what's going on in the ecosystem out here. So over to the left here we have an emergency oxygen system. If the power goes off, our electric pumps stop, the water flow stops. So we've got a emergency system here that will automatically inject oxygen into each of the fish tanks to keep the fish alive until we get the water flowing again. Our water supply for the hatchery comes from over across the road. We have a little pump house over there. Actually it's an artesian well that we are tied into, and it was one of the 3 wells that was used for the old salt mine here in the town of Kincardine back in the late 1800s and early 1900s. The well, we had it capped for our purpose, but we measured it and it's actually 700 feet deep. It's an 8-inch bore, 700 feet deep. It's amazing how they dug something like that back in the 1800s. The water is nice and clear. It's constant temperature. It runs 10 degrees Celsius all year round. The only problem with using well water is well water hasn't got any oxygen in. So if we took the water right out of the well and put it into the fish tanks, the fish would die right away because there's no oxygen. So we have to inject oxygen into the water, and we do that just with the mechanical means. The plastic boxes here, those are stacked right up to the roof, and those boxes are full of these little plastic rings. These are called Paul rings. The water cascades over these rings, and that just increases the air to water surface area and allows the water to absorb oxygen out of the air. So the water comes out of those towers at saturation, holding as much oxygen as it possibly can. And that big black tank there is just a head tank that supplies a constant supply of water to our hatchery tanks. So these long narrow tanks here, these are our fry tanks and actually our egg facility. Later on, hopefully you'll be able to come back and see the eggs. When we get the eggs, they'll be in trays here in each of these tanks. Once the eggs are all hatched out and the fry are starting to grow, we move them into our intermediate tanks. Now these tanks right here are full of rainbow trout. These rainbow trout, there's about 6,000 in this tank, and these hatched out around July the 1st, so they would be about 4 months old right now. On each tank you'll see a feeder hanging down. These are homemade feeders. They run on barbecue rotisserie motors. It's connected up to that timer circuit that we saw when we came in the hatchery. When the timer goes off, the motor's barbecue rotisserie motor spins, knocks some feed into the water for the fish. Our fish are fed from 8 in the morning until 8 at night, once per hour. I'm on the same feeding schedule. You can see it works good for me, so it works good for the fish as well. Our big tanks here, these are our finishing tanks. Now, unfortunately, right now, all these tanks are empty. We just finished releasing all of our brown trout last night. So, up till yesterday, this tank was full of water and full of fish. There was about 10,000 brown trout in this tank. So this area of the hatchery, it's not heated or cooled, but it's insulated, and basically it gets heating and cooling from the water that's flowing through the hatchery. So it's this temperature all year round in here, about 55 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's nice and warm in the wintertime compared with outside, and it's a beautiful place to work when it's about 80 degrees Fahrenheit outside. It's nice and cool in here in the summertime. Now this tank here, we've just moved some of those rainbow trout that we saw in the intermediate tanks. We've moved them into here to give them more room to grow and to swim. Out the back of the hatchery here, this is a sedimentation pond. So all the water that flows through our fish tanks, it picks up fish dirt, extra fish feed. The water eventually is put into the Penetangor River here behind the hatchery, but we don't want to add all that dirt to the water into the river. So this sedimentation pond settles out all the solid waste. The clean water overflows the end of the pond into the river. About every 3 weeks, we start an electric pump, and it pumps all this waste down through the sewer system to the sewage treatment plant in town. So it's a really good working relationship we have with the town of Kincardine. The town of Kincardine leases us this land for the hatchery, to build the hatchery on, and it provides us the facility to get rid of our wastewater. So it's a good working relationship with the town of Kincardine. So when it comes time to release these fish, we release the fish 2 times a year, in the fall and in the spring. We wait until the receiving water, either the river or the lake that we're going to be putting the fish into, matches the hatchery temperature, so that there's no thermal shock on the fish when we release them. So we have the 2 trailers here. These hook up to one of our vehicles. They are actually homemade trailers, fish transport trailers out of old milk transfer tanks. They have a mechanical aerator here that cascades the water, and we also have an oxygen system that will bubble pure oxygen into the water. So we take this trailer, we fill it up with hatchery water. We fill the trailer full of water, we get the air going to it, the oxygen going to it, and then we net the fish, long-handled nets out of the tanks. We load them into the tanker. We normally put about 3,000 fish per tank load, and then we take this trailer with the fish to wherever we're going to release the fish, back down to the water, release or open the valve at the back of the trailer, and out the fish go into the water. We do try to do most of our releases if there's a problem with birds, either cormorants or gulls or terns. We do the releases in the evening. after the birds have gone to sleep so that the fish have a chance to disperse before the birds come back to try feeding on them. So on a normal set of releases in the fall or the spring, it takes about 25 trailer loads to get all of our fish into the water. So it's a bit of work. We have help from another group, the Ontario Steelheaders. The Ontario Steelheaders are in partnership with us. They supply us with some funding for raising the rainbow trout to go into the Saugeen River. And they also provide help with the releases. They have 2 trailers themselves that they bring to help get the fish into the water. So it's a good cooperative effort. So our 2 species of fish that we raise in this hatchery, the rainbow trout and the brown trout, we release in different areas. The brown trout we release basically right into the lake, and we release them from Point Clark all the way up the shoreline in small batches up to Pike Bay, and we take 1 load every fall over to Barrow Bay over in Georgian Bay. The rainbow trout, right now we are releasing all of our rainbow trout into the Saugeen River, and we release those around the Walkerton area. The reason we release the fish over in the Walkerton area on the Saugeen River is to give the fish a chance to imprint to the Saugeen River so that when they are ready to spawn, they will head back to the Saugeen River to do their spawning. We've had really great success with our rainbow trout program on the Saugeen River. The guys up fishing up in Southampton there just love us because they've never seen the number of rainbow trout in the Saugeen River as they have in the last couple of years. So we are really fortunate in this area. Our local municipalities are very supportive of the sport of fishing and of the fishing club in general. It's amazing compared with other areas of the province how much fishable area we have in the Grey Bruce area here. Take Kincardine here for example, all along the Penetangor River here you can fish. There's open areas, there's fish cleaning stations, there's free boat launching, there's free access out to the piers. There is a lot of support for fishermen, and then the 2 derbies in Kincardine here, our derby and the Fish Kincardine Salmon Derby, they really promote fishermen or promote fishing to the general public. Really good relationship with the communities. For our hatchery here in Kincardine, it's supported by the local municipality and by the local businesses. Same thing in Port Elgin. The hatchery up there, the town of Port Elgin, Saugeen Shores supports the fishing club with the operation of that hatchery, and the local businesses support the operation there. So we have really good working relationship with local municipalities, fishermen, and the Lake Huron Fishing Club.
My name is Gary Biederman. I'm a volunteer with the Lake Huron Fishing Club, and right now we're in the Port Elgin Salmon Hatchery, and I'm going to take you on a tour through the hatchery to show you where the water comes in, the way that eggs and fish are handled when they're in here, and how they're growing until we release them. At the front end of the hatchery here, this is the water that comes in from the town pond. This water comes in. What we don't use is bypassed around the hatchery. The rest comes in this pipe and goes through this filter box. Over here is the well pumps. Outside the hatchery there is a well. That water comes in warmer, and we use it to mix with the pond water through the winter to keep the water temperature up around 45, 46. That helps them grow a little faster and keeps the water warmer. You can see in the filter box there are filters. When the eggs come in and go into their hatching trays, we have to filter the water so that there is no silt that goes in from the pond, because the silt will eventually suffocate the eggs. So this is done until they're at what they call swim up stage, and then the filters come out and they just see the raw water just like they do when they're in the river. Now if we go down through, I'll show you the hatching trays. This is the header where the water comes in. We run it through these trays. They're called upwelling trays. The water comes in and upwells through a screen in the bottom and then goes out a screen at the back. You can see the screen here where it goes out, goes down, goes to the next tray, then back up again. These fish you see in here now are called egg sac fry. When they hatched about 2.5 weeks ago, they hatched with a sac still on them, and that's what they're living on right now. The fish is still developing, and you do not feed them at this stage because their digestive system is not yet ready for taking solid food. Now these tanks are our final rearing tanks. I'll get to these in a minute, but right now we're using them to support the hatching trays. The water goes in, is draining out of those tanks and going in this trough, and the water that leaves this trough goes out a settling pond at the other end of the hatchery. When the fish in those hatching trays reach a stage called swim up. In other words, the sac is just about dissolved. They're transferred to the first set of rearing tanks, and at that point, that's when we start adding feed. And they're over at this end here. So these headers are turned on, water's put in these tanks to a level of about 1.5 to 2 feet. And the fish are put in these tanks, and once they start swimming up, in other words, they'll disperse up into the water column. They'll actually swim as a school. They'll start swimming around the tank. At that stage, that's when we start feeding them, and that's when we use these rotary feeders. Now not on these feeders right now, but what will be up here is actually a barbecue rotisserie motor. They plug into the lines you see up there, and those boxes, those electrical boxes, are actually on timer circuits, and I'll set the timers. These things will operate over a 12-hour span. They'll cycle every 30 minutes, and they'll cycle for about 5 to 6 seconds. They'll drop, the base rotates, drops feed in the tank, and then the fish will feed on it and they're doing that through the whole day. These screens are number one, to keep the fish in because the drains are down there. And it also allows us to clean the tanks daily. That's one of the things we have to do, is every day we have to clean these tanks. They're not self-cleaning. And that's part of the routines that the crew does when they come in through this winter. There's a crew in every night to clean the tanks and to add feed to the feeders. And that's done until we release them in the spring, late April, early May. Once they reach the size of a gram in these tanks, then they're transferred to the big ones that we were just seeing over there. They go into those tanks. These hatching trays are once the fish are transferred to the first set of rearing tanks. These hatching trays are taken off the big tanks. We store them up where we started, up in the inlet, section of the hatchery. These trays open up, or this big tank opens up. We start running water through there through the same headers. The water in these tanks goes about 2 to 2.5 feet deep. And these are another set of automatic feeders that will feed them every day. Those feeders run off a separate timer circuit. I run them for about an hour, or again 12 hours, but they'll go once an hour and they'll go for about maybe a half a second to a second. And the reason we'll use these feeders is they drop the feed over the length of pretty well the whole tank, and that way it's distributed so all the fish can get to it. Some aren't starved out because they're not aggressive enough. They stay in these tanks until they're about 4 to 4.5 grams, and again that's late April, early May, and then we start transferring them out to either the Saugeen River or the Sabo River. And then they make a run out to the lake, and that's where they spend the rest of their life cycle. Okay, as part of the licensing of the hatchery, we have to get a discharge license from the Ministry of the Environment, and to make sure that we don't pollute the original creek that all this water drains into. This is our settling pond. It's a 3-chambered pond. It takes all the waste that comes out in the water from the hatchery, all the fish waste and the excess food gets settled out here, and then it overflows at the other end into the creek. That's the original creek that drained the head pond, and we just built the hatchery in this on top of that creek bed, and then run the water out as it normally would have flown.
Chantry Chinook Classic is the fishing derby for the Lake Huron Fishing Club, and actually this upcoming year in 2013 will be our 30th anniversary for the Chantry Chinook Classic, so it's one of the longest running fishing derbies in Ontario. And primarily it was created as a fundraiser to pay for the fishery conservation projects that the Lake Huron Fishing Club does. And as a side benefit, it sort of brings together all of the members of the club. It involves the community into fishery-related activities. It brings a lot of tourism into the area, and it's a win-win for just about everybody in the area. You asked what the biggest fish in our fishing derby was. If you pan to the right here on the wall, you'll see the Chinook salmon caught by Harold Quinn in 1995. It's 36.92 pounds, and it's the biggest salmon ever caught in the Chantry Derby, and it's the biggest salmon that we know of that's been caught along this side of the shoreline. So.
Okay, we're approximately 4.5 to 5 miles off of Port Elgin, a wee bit to the north of the channel, or the harbor channel. And we are heading northwest right now. We're trying to find a good temperature, which seems to have evaded us in the last week and a half. We have 7 degrees down 87 feet and 71.2, so it's pretty much the same top to bottom. I get into I'm in about 99 to 100 feet of water here. I want to get into a little deeper water and get down a little deeper.
Right.
See if we can get that magic number of 54 degrees. And maybe turn on the fish. Yeah, see, as soon as you start changing up, things happen.
What's going on with this? Didn't you release that?
Which? That's the lead core. I just put it out of the way.
Oh, whoa.
Bit of a head shake? Yeah. This is good. Just let go. I think I'm just going to move up behind you. Just sit there. There we go. Good. Hey. On the main line, eh? It's good. Yeah. That was on that blue whale. I don't think we'll change that.
Is that a Carlson?
No, that's a Silver Streak. Not huge, but
Just a little guy.
it's called a fish.
Just a little. That shooter's right in behind you there.
Yep,
Brian.
I got it.
Just a little anchor.
He's hooked well. Holy Hannah.
Fish from the side really count.
They do.
For a little guy like that, I mean,
Yeah.
he was doing a real head bob, you know? Just a little thing like that.
What we had was a blue and silver, what they call a blue alewife Silver Streak. We got a bit of a mess here, but it's nothing serious. Probably easier if I took the lure off. This one has produced a lot of fish this year, but not today. Adriano's resetting that rod that we just got a fish on. Hopefully we can pull another one. And we're going to go to green and orange. See how that is. What I'm going to do is go back behind the cannonball about 20 feet here. There's a, I like to use these chrome cannonballs for the fact that I feel that they're an attractant. Hook the line up to a release. And then we get around there. Come on. And we'll go back down to around 140 feet where we got that fish. We had good temp down there, so I thought that was maybe a little bigger fish than it was. We have here a Magnum Dipsy. Whoop. What that does, it takes the line down and away from the boat. You set this at one of the numbers on the bottom, and I've got it set so that it planes out to the side this way. So it just goes away from the boat, and see if we can find out what took that lure on me. There's just enough haze on that horizon you can't see exactly what shore is. Yeah, yeah. Hey, this looks like a little better fish. I don't think that lead core is in the way. Okay.
You struck within 15 minutes.
There you go. I just got to predict more often, eh?
That's right.
Yeah, well, that's one per side. This is good. That's on that. Hey, fish, fish, fish! Double header! Now we might have to get some lead core out of the way. How are you doing, Grant?
Not bad, he's still down.
No, I'm going to net. You guys get this lead core up out of the way here. This could be interesting.
Yeah. Especially if you get another one. Uh-oh, I'm underneath something. I'm underneath that one, right?
The lead core?
The lead core. Yeah. Either underneath it or I might have to change sides.
No, you're not the lead core.
No, I think it's the Gipsy.
All right.
I'm underneath the Gipsy.
How are you doing, Grant? Oh, we lost him?
Yeah.
Crap.
He hit the motor.
Did he?
Come around this side. He's up top now. I'm underneath the Gipsy. I think that Gipsy let go. Can we change sides? No, it's this one. Whatever this one is, right? Yeah.
Lead core.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a lake trout, I guess.
Was it? This is a rainbow, I think.
Rainbow?
I believe so. Right in the middle here. Oh, there's another salmon. A little bigger than the other one.
Too much, but a little bigger.
Ah, stupid. Too bad we couldn't have got both of them in. Yeah, he's hooked. Really good. There we go. Nice little salmon.
Nice little salmon.
All right. This gives you an extra lure in the water. They call it a slider or a cheater. It's just a short piece of line, 5 to 6 feet long. You clip on your line. With the bend in the line like this, it goes down about half the depth of your. It usually produces fish. Times are tough these days. You gotta try everything you can. And that's about a 10-pound cannonball that takes our line pretty much straight down, not quite. And then the black thing above that's our temperature probe, which gives us our temperature when we're down there. So it's very important. That's a very important piece of piece of equipment to have on board. There, we'll see if we can get into another fish here quick. I think we found the hot spot. We should have came here first, eh? This one doesn't seem to be staying down as bad.
Well, you rubbed the motor going around there.
Yeah.
I had a lot of them go down just a little bit through the sun. They were anchor.
Well, this one looks like it might be a salmon. It's not a small, it's not huge, no. Yeah, there he is. And waves are getting up to be almost a meter now. A small lake trout. Small lake trout. There we go. He was hooked well.
Put him back.
He's bleeding. We'll have to keep him. Yeah.
We welcome more members and we welcome volunteers. We've always got room for more. We have membership forms at our both of our hatcheries. We have a club web page, LakeHuronFishingClub.com. Anybody can go to our web page, find out anything about the fishing club there, and they can download a membership form off of the web page and mail it in. Or just recently, just this year, we added the capability of taking out a membership and using PayPal to write online. So we're finally dragging ourselves out of the 20th century, and we're not quite in the 21st century yet, but we're getting close.